So today I want to talk a little bit about reference tracks. So first off, what is a reference track? Well, a reference track is a song you refer to when you are producing music. You don't say. It could be a reference track for when you're writing and arranging, could be one for when you're mixing, could be one for when you're mastering. These are all times when you might use a reference track. If you're mixing or mastering a track, it can be difficult to know what the client really wants to hear. So asking for a reference track in advance can be a really good way of understanding what kind of sounds the client, the artist, the producer likes. But there's also other ways that you can use these reference tracks. For instance, I have a list of maybe 20 songs that I know really well, and I use those for if I'm ever in a different space, or if I've got a new product in my studio, I can listen to these tracks that I know really well and figure out, oh, okay, so this has changed the mid-range, or this has made the bass louder. It's really good when you get a new pair of headphones, a new pair of speakers, to have these reference tracks so you can quickly learn how your favourite songs sound on different systems. Also, each room sounds so different, so if you were to go and work in a different studio or mix in a different studio, you can put on your favourite tracks and quickly be like, oh, okay, so there's a lot of 200 hertz in this room, let's say, or there's a big trough at 80 hertz. So I encourage you to have a selection of maybe 10, 20 songs that you know really well, that you've listened to a lot, maybe across a few different genres or across the genres that you produce in the most, and you can refer back to these when you are making music, when you are mixing, when you're mastering, and that way you can line up your song against a professionally produced, mastered and mixed track. So how do you use a reference track? Simply find a high quality version of your track. A WAV is ideal for this, and drag and drop it into your arrangement, your timeline. Then when it's in there, you can very easily compare it to your song, and you can also apply tools like analyzers and meters so that you can really compare what's going on between your track and the reference. So now I'm going to talk through a few of my favourite reference tracks, and I'll explain why I've chosen them, why I like them, what I use them for. Now I encourage you to use different ones to me, obviously, so let's jump into some of my favourites. So starting off, it is Radiohead's Everything in Its Right Place. And this came out in like 2000 and... So why do I use this track? I think the main reason I use this as a reference track is for vocals. Tom York's voice is just right in front of you. There's so much space in this mix as well. The vocal effects mainly are what does it for me in this track, but also the Prophet 5 synth I think they use in the intro, it just sounds so warm. But yeah, for me, like the layering of vocals, there's so much detail. I mean, the stereo width on this track is amazing as well. Those reverse vocals, man. I just love the sound of it. It sounds great. So I use it quite often as a reference for vocals in a mix. Next track is, see this one I still feel guilty about it. I don't think it helps that the track's called Beat It as well, based on what he did. Allegedly did. Michael Jackson Beat It. But this just sounds amazing, man. It sounds so good. Like, Quincy Jones produced, came out, Van Halen on the guitars. The drums, I think Linn drum or 808 samples layered in with live drums. They sound great. Let's just blast some. Great stereo width as well. That snare is so wide. The doubled one anyway, because there's one in the single in the middle and then there's one that pans. That guitar tone, man. So much feel as well. Great backing vocals. That popping line. Boom, 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 boom. No blood, don't be a macho man. You wanna be tough. Just warm. Seriously, it sounds so good. Just, yeah, for a general full band mix, this is one of my go-to tracks. Those vocals, man, they're just so tight. Like, so much personality in this song. The next track is... So I'm also a really big fan of electronic music. So one I really like and I recommend anyone who is into electronic stuff know is a guy called Tipper. His mixdowns are super clean, super precise, and the panning on them is really incredible. He knows where to put a sound in a mix. The synthesis is just really cool in general. Where the resonance is. So much depth and detail. The use of space in this track is one of my favourites. It's why I love it, like the use of reverbs. Side chaining going on with the kicks now. It's just like a space for everything, like not too many sounds are playing at the same time, which allows everything to be really punchy. And the sound design, just the noises in general are really cool. Just really clean, like really clean production. Really wide stuff going on. And other stuff is really narrow. For any electronic producer, tipper is a must know. Yeah, I love that one. There's loads of low end in it as well, so it's good for sub bass and hearing what the sub's doing. I'm also big into my drum and bass, so if I'm ever mixing drum and bass stuff or doing some drum and bass stuff, then I like to know what's going on when I really push the speakers. So for that, we have Noisier. I'm gonna skip to the drop for this one. This is a track that makes the house shake. The sound design's just insane. It's just from another world. This is just like a super loud track, so it's great for hearing when I'm pushing something. It's like, okay, well, how much can I push it? How much distortion can I get away with? This will test any speakers with how low they can go in the bottom end. But yeah, once again, super clean, crispy production, yet it's heavy and like really heavy and really loud. Drums sound wicked, like really great sound that's right in front of you, so punchy. 5 for the last one, and we'll go with this one, Yoga by Bjork. So this one's got some lovely strings in it, so I use it often as a string reference when I've got strings in a mix, basically.
All these accidents that happen.
Beautiful vocal as well, slight delay on the vocal. Lovely spaces, some lovely reverbs, mixed by Spike Stent, I think. It's great drum effects.
Emotional landscape.
Panning left to right, really cool filtering.
And you push me up to
Love the reverb on Bjork's voice. Great string line. So this is one when I'm mixing a female vocal that I'll turn to, or anytime I've got acoustic kind of strings. Also the bass is quite nice on it as well, so I'll use that for that. Okay, so that is my 5 when I'm mixing and mastering and when I have a particular sound in mind, and also when I am in a different space or I get a new piece of studio gear. I know these tracks pretty well, I've heard them hundreds of times. That allows me to realize how the new gear or the new space is affecting the track, and then I can mix with that in mind. I'd be interested in hearing what some of your favorite reference tracks are.
I'll see you later.